Welcome to another episode of the Embodying Excellence podcast. I'm your host, Carlo, and I'm here with Brenden. How's it going?
Yeah, I'm really good. Thank you. What about yourself?
I am swell. This is going to be a big episode, I think. I'm feeling a lot of good energy, and I'm really sure that what we're going to talk about today is not only going to rattle a lot of feathers, but also it's going to really help positively impact the way that you see life in general, and you see the way that your actions are affecting the way that your reality is currently existing.
Yeah, 100%. And
But what are we talking about today?
we're talking about promises today.
Promises. Don't make promises you cannot keep.
Yeah.
That's a really good old saying that I've heard all of my life, and it's constantly been abused. But at the same time, there's also a big meritable premise towards that saying, because when you can keep your promises, what ends up happening?
You move forward.
Well, I think that's the most simplistic answer you could have given. I think it goes way beyond just being able to move forward, and that's exactly what we're going to discuss today. So, I want to start with keeping promises to yourself. Now, that's the biggie. That's the biggie.
Yeah.
We always love to start with the biggies, because the biggies are what matter to us, and then all the littlies that we talk about then all add up to then why the biggie is so important. So when we are by ourselves, who do you think we're talking to? We're talking to ourselves, aren't we?
Yeah, exactly.
And so a lot of the time, the way that our life is construed and how our reality is in front of us is often the construction of our thoughts and our mind and the conversations that we're having with ourselves. And if the conversations that we're having with ourselves are positive, they're going to be positive. You're going to be happy. There's going to be joy. You're going to have triumph. You're going to experience peace. There's going to be an abundance of goodness coming in. You're going to feel dopamine like you've never felt dopamine before. You're going to feel like that you're on cocaine, but you're not. It's actually your own body. You don't need something external to feel what you're about to feel. However, on the other end of the spectrum, which is what is more natural for humanity, is the negative. It's not hard to talk shit about yourself, to be self-deprecating, to put yourself down, to put others above yourself, because you're that type of person who will go above and beyond for somebody else. But then, when it's your turn to receive your flowers, you feel unworthy, or you don't feel like that you deserve them, or you should be doing more before even someone mentions the things that you do well. And from an evolutionary standpoint, the reason that we think and we're wired that way is so that we survive. And now that we've survived caves and wild animals and wild plants, we're now in offices, and we're now in amongst people within close proximity all the time, whether it's on our phones or whether it's at work and things like that. And instead of the need to survive physically, we feel the need to survive mentally, emotionally, spiritually. There are people that get on our fucking nerves, and I know you know countless people like that. I certainly know countless people like that. And it's quite easy to talk negative about them, yourself, the situation. It is also just as simple, not easy, simple, to talk positively as well. And so, in part, this is how it ties into promises, where when you are keeping track of the things that you're saying, that you're both going to act on and consistently think about, then when that happens and you have cohesion between the way that you think and the things that you do, you, as you put simply, move forward. When you don't, when you say that you're not going to eat shit this weekend, but you end up at the pub and it's happy hour and you've had 6 beers, couple of plates of fries, and now you're about to pork out on wings. That's not keeping a promise to yourself,
No,
is
not
it?
at all.
Not at all. When on the other end you go, you know what, it's not going to be a big night tonight, and you only have 1 or 2. By keeping that promise to yourself, you feel better.
Yeah.
And ultimately, it comes down to the way that we think about ourselves. If we have this aura of neglect, of the world looks down upon me, I'm the victim, well, every night that you tell yourself that you're not going to go and splurge, you end up splurging.
Yeah.
If you go, you know what, I am a product of my own creation, I am responsible for my decisions, and I am the creator of my future, the likelihood of you splurging on shit when you promised yourself that you won't is much lower. Like that is, to me, the simplest basis of keeping promises that I can currently come up with. And I'm certain that you have examples of this, personal examples of this, where this has come to light, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Like it happens with every day pretty much. Like I write myself a list every night for the next day.
Power list.
The power list.
75 hard, and if it's on shameless plug.
Yeah. For
No advertise.
Yeah. For me to move forward towards my goals, right? They're promises that I make to myself that I'll get done, right? And to me, it's all about the standard I set for myself. Like the standard I set for myself is to keep them promises that I'll do these things. Not only them things, but general day-to-day things like treat people the right way, do my workout, do my ruck, eat right, don't react emotionally. There's that many things that I set for myself, like I promise to myself that I'll do. They're standards, right? And the higher the standard that you set for yourself, the more likely that you're going to keep to them promises, because that standard has to be abided by for you to feel good about yourself. If you don't stand by them or live up to them standards, then you're going to feel like shit, because your standards are so high, and so anything below that is not keeping the promise to yourself. So I find this like about having that, basically that standard there to go to every day, and that standard holds you to keeping them promises. Because if you don't have the standard there, you're less likely to keep the promises to yourself, because you think it's okay that you don't keep them promises to yourself. You don't have the standard or the expectations of yourself to move forward every day, to treat people right, to eat right, to work out, to do your ruck, to do all these things that I've made for myself to have as a standard, and thus a promise I keep to myself every day.
That's absolutely true, and I want to also highlight the standards aspect. So you both have, there's both realistic standards and unrealistic standards. And so when, again, like we talked about in a previous episode, your actions need to be proportional to your standards and your values. So
Yes.
if you're setting these really high standards and your actions are clearly nowhere near the standards that you arbitrarily set, you're going to feel like shit all the time. You're setting yourself up for perpetual feelings of shit. And to save yourself from that, you need to set what are called realistic standards. So I don't mean realistic by, oh my God, your unrealistic standards are impossible, you need to be more realistic. No, I mean it needs to be practical. So if your standards are currently low, you need to do a lot of work to raise the standards. And so you're not going to raise the standards up here when your standards are down here. You're going to raise it slightly so that then you have the opportunity to see the next step and go, hey, you know what? I've done this and this and this. Now I can set the bar a little higher. Then you go a little higher. Oh, cool. All right. Now I need to do this and this and this and this. All right, cool. I've reached this bar now. Now this is my base bar now. So this is the foundation. I've done everything that I needed to do from here to here. So now this is the baseline. Now you're at the threshold of realistic standards now. So these habits that you're going to eat right, that you're going to train, that you're going to go to bed on time, you're not going to be on your phone all the time. This is your base now. This is your foundation because everything that has been then instructed by you to do in practical reality has now come forth. So now this is the discipline aspect of it. This is the consistency aspect of it. Now that you've got a solid foundation, that you've got a solid baseline, that's where the unrealistic, impossible steps then come in. Because now, because you've got a good baseline, you have room for growth. So now all these seemingly impossible goals and impossible standards that you want to set for yourself so that you can achieve at the highest level is as simple as breaking them down into action steps and then just constantly building them over time. So that then by giving yourself a long enough time horizon to be able to reach the absolute standard that you'd like to reach and go even further, that will then allow for you to not feel like shit anymore. Because if you have let's say for example, you have an income goal of $10,000 a month, and from today you go, I want to reach 10K months by December. That's in 3 weeks' time. And not only do you not have the skills yet to generate a $10,000 a month income, you haven't. So you're here and this income goal's here. No wonder it feels impossible. No wonder you're in this perpetual cycle of, oh, I want to make 10K a month, but I don't know what to do, right? And then these genius marketers, they go and they feed off that and they go, you can make 10K a month in 90 days, right? And then they sell you their course. Their course is probably subpar at best. Some courses are really good and they can actually do it if you actually really, really do the work. But if you want something radical, you need to do something radical. Now, are you willing to do something radical? That's a different question altogether. If you aren't someone who's willing to be radical, right, then don't expect radical results. And so if you're somebody who's willing to slow down and do it through going through the process and understanding the skills that are necessary in order to achieve said result, no worries. Give yourself that time. If you don't, then you will be in this perpetual feeling like shit. And the promises that you make from the standards that you set will constantly be broken because you've set the barometer this high and your current skill set and attitude is this high. So when you're down here, set it just up here so that then it just keeps growing over time. Unless you're willing to go from 0 to 100. Very few people both have the testicular fortitude and their will to go out and do that and to radically change their lives. It's happened. I've seen people change their lives radically. It does happen, but you've got to be absolutely willing. And a lot of the time, man's grasp is beyond his nerve, right? So what I mean by that is that what people want is beyond their capacity normally, right? And a lot of the time, because they come to that realization, they just give up. Where if they go, if I just constantly take day-to-day actions of daily improvement, right? Ikigai or what's it called? Kaizen, of the Japanese term for daily improvement, right? And I do little things every single day. I make little promises to myself that I keep every single day,
Yeah.
that standard that you were just talking about, that really high standard,
Yeah.
that's going to come.
Yeah.
Like, I'm 28 years old, right? And I have fucked everything sideways in every way till Friday for the last, I'm going to say 13 years, right? Since I could conceptualize what reality has meant, I'm going to say that that was probably around the age of 15, right? And for the last 13 years, there's been ups, there's been downs, there's been sideways, there's been fuck this and fuck that, right? And what I've arrived is that by taking little steps every single day and knowing that no one really gives a fuck about what I do, I just need to go out and do it anyway because it matters to me the most, then by keeping little promises to myself every single day, I can improve. That's where the basis of this entire episode has been founded upon for me personally. And so by making those daily improvements, I am enabling myself the opportunity for excellence, for that level of standard that was seemingly impossible to me 5 years ago to now.
Yeah, absolutely. It all makes a difference. Like what you say to yourself. Like to me, if I say I'm going to do something, not just to myself but to others, I expect of myself to do it, to actually follow through on it, and sort of if I don't do so, I'm sort of letting not only myself down but the other person down, and I feel as though, like, I mean, that comes down to what I was saying before, your standard. If you set your standard that you not only keep the promises that you make to yourself but to others as well, if you make that a standard of yours, then you're more, you trust not only yourself but you help others trust you as well. And I think that's a big part of it, trust. Like, I mean, if you're constantly being told by others, like, this has come from a different angle, like with trust between like people, like if you're constantly told something, say if someone said, oh, they're gonna do something for you, right, and they keep either not turning up or they keep delaying it or do that, your trust in them to follow through on things is going to dwindle, right? And unfortunately what happens as well is that puts in your head that you can't trust others as well because of the actions of one person, right? You sort of, it impacts the way you see other people, and it's not their fault. They haven't sort of taken actions or lack of action on things, but it's the result of other people that determine the way you look at other people, and that gets in your head, and that sort of holds you back as well in a way from, so like either asking the question for someone to do something or whatever it might be. Like if I sort of ask someone at work to do something and they said, oh, I'm going to do it, and they don't do it, then fucking, and it's not just once, it's continually, you got to keep asking them every day to do something, and they don't do it. Like, I mean, your trust in them is going to erode because they've said they're going to do it, they don't do it, and then you're going to take extra work upon yourself, and you're going to be least likely to actually ask someone else. And it just goes then, like, it's freaking.
I've been both people in that.
Yeah, we're all like
I've been both. I completely understand what you're saying, and I can say that I've been both. Like, and if you believe that you haven't been both, I'm here to tell you that you're wrong. Like, I'm certain there is an aspect in your life, maybe multiple, where you know that you're not doing everything that you could be doing. And then when someone has said to you that, hey, this is not the agreement that we made, or this is not the standards that we've set, and you're violating my trust, and instead of taking accountability, you make excuses, then of course the trust is going to erode. And that then leads into the promises that we keep to others. And so the promises that we keep to ourselves and the ones that we make to ourselves and we keep and consistently keep and we keep growing, that's a biggie. And then that leads into one of the little leads that we're talking about is the relationships that we have with others. Like you were saying, with someone at work who doesn't do exactly what you ask them more than once, of course the trust is going to dwindle. And then that compromises the relationship. And it doesn't just compromise the relationship, it also then compromises their perception of you and your perception of them. And so the thing is, your perception of them now, because of these said actions, changes. It's not tied into reality, because when someone does something, right, it's not mutually exclusive that they then are a horrible person. They just didn't do that one thing for multiple reasons or for multiple occasions, and perhaps instead of instructing them consistently to do it, maybe you should just ask what the hell's going on. Like, hey, like I've seen that things haven't been up to standard, this is unlike you, is everything okay? Then they might give you this spiel about how something's happened in their life and it's really affecting the way that they work, and that little bit of support can really go a long way as well.
Absolutely,
and so, but if they're clearly violating your trust and they know exactly what they're doing, then that's a problem. And that needs to be taken care of immediately. And so I just wanted to discern that difference, so that then you're not going out there going, well, someone didn't do this and now I don't trust it anymore. Like, because the thing is that is just rooted in isolation and abandonment trauma, which we're not going to talk about in this episode. But at the same time, what ends up happening is even just the slightest either indiscretion or misunderstanding, if you're that person to just completely cut someone off after that, and like it doesn't warrant like a big enough reason, then you might have other issues. Like that's just my personal opinion. But if it's a minor indiscretion, like someone not doing a task at work because they either forgot or they were preoccupied with other tasks, then, like you're not going to just not go and talk to them anymore. That's not the way humans work. Like if we did that, no one would be talking to anybody.
Exactly right. It's just about holding that standard for yourself, and if you sort of tolerate that someone continually violates the promises they say they're going to do, like, I mean, that means you're okay with that. And if you set your standard high enough to say that you're not okay with people continually doing that, and finding out the reason why they do that and try and help them move forward, then it's going to be a different story.
Well, you've got to be willing. Like both parties have got to be willing to partake in a conversation.
Exactly.
Accountability needs to be taking place, and at the same time, when that doesn't happen, then the trust definitely erodes. And especially if you're that person who isn't doing all that they could be doing and they know it, and then they also let the person that should be keeping you accountable lets you get away with it. Like, I know it's happened to me, and I'm the type of person that loses respect for someone that lets me get away with it. Like if someone doesn't let me get away with it, I can be understanding. Sometimes I can be defensive, especially if I feel like it's a direct attack. But a lot of the time, it's, hey, look, this is not working. You need to change this and this and this. Yeah, great, no problem. But other way as well, like if I see something's not working, hey, you need to change this and this and this and this. This is unacceptable. Bang, bang, bang. Like it's done. Like that's it. Like it doesn't need to go. It's not that deep, right? But then by having someone to communicate with on a consistent basis, that's also very, very important. Because if there isn't any communication and it's just all miscommunication, then it's going to lead to unnecessary resentment, expending energy in places that it doesn't need to be expended, and then more problems arise, right? And then conflict delayed is conflict multiplied. And so
exactly.
By consistently breaking promises, you're only just delaying the inevitable conflict, and then you just multiply its magnitude when it does erupt. And that's completely unnecessary by just cutting straight to the source and going, hey, like, you know the standard is this, you're not meeting it at the moment. What's going on?
Yeah, communication and accountability.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, those two, like if they don't know that they're sort of not abiding by their standards or they're not sort of doing as they said that they were going to do, then they're going to keep doing that because they're not aware as though, and their standards might be to themselves that it doesn't really sort of matter if you don't follow through on things. Like they might not have that development in themselves that they follow through on things all the time because they've been they've been given that freedom by the people that they've sort of surrounded by, that it's okay to not keep them promises themselves. They get stuff done for them all the time, or get helped out all the time, this, that, and they're not sort of responsible for doing them. They don't have that responsibility put upon them to actually follow through on things.
Yeah, and it's important. You need to be able to both follow through on things and be able to take full responsibility. And so saying that this was my responsibility, this is my fault, I'm sorry, is different to I take full responsibility. And so when you take full responsibility, it's the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it. When you go, yep, I fucked up, this is my fault, that's just as important, but it's not exactly the same thing. And so because the thing is, when you go, oh, I fucked up, I'm sorry, you still have the opportunity to fuck it up again, right? But if you take full responsibility and apologise, then the likelihood of you completely fucking it up dwindles, because you're going, well, now they're onto me, I'm also onto me, and because I have my standards up here, then I need to make sure that it doesn't dip again. And so you'll be on yourself as well. And if you're not on yourself, then, well, who else is going to be on you? And then you will then feel the pressure of being on someone else as well. And so, for example, if someone doesn't work, and you tell them that they're not working, and they go, oh, I'm sorry, and they don't change, well then not only do they not care about the standards that you set, they don't have any standards that they set themselves. And so now you've got to impose your standard, which then they will resent because they have no standards in the first place, and now it's expected of them to meet somebody else's standard that has nothing to do with them, even though it does have something to do with them because they're under your employ, or they're under your management. And so that you need to be able to discern where to draw the line, like where to give the stick and where to give the carrot. And so, and it's different for each circumstance. And so to be able to identify where things are is a really, really useful skill. But it all starts with keeping promises to yourself. And what I want to also make a note of is that you're going to meet people in life who have no concept of this particular concept that we're just grasping here. And so it might feel like that you're hitting your head against a brick wall, right? And instead of quitting hitting your head against a brick wall, you decide to continue. And so you also need to understand that there are going to be some people that just don't get it. They don't get it. And because they don't get it, it's not worth cracking your head over and over and over again about. And it might be time to step in a different direction, and just make sure that when you do step in a different direction, then it's amenable, it's peaceful, and you just tell your part of the story, they tell their part of the story, and then at the same time, the truth is somewhere in the middle. And so, but this all doesn't happen provided that there is effective communication and that you keep promising to yourself that you're going to keep that employee accountable, and then the employee keeps the promise that they made to you and themselves that their standard of work is going to be at a high level.
And a lot of the time, it's their word. It's how much their word means. Like, are they just saying, "Oh, look, sorry, it was me," just to get you off their back, or are they actually having that standard upon themselves to actually next time keep that promise that they've made to you? And as someone, like, as a leader in an environment, whether that environment is your workplace, if it's your household, or your gym, wherever it is, right, if you're not holding that standard, if you're not keeping promises that you make to others, you can't really expect that the people that are beneath you, like in terms of like the tier system, right, not like in terms of a person or anything like that,
just the hierarchy.
Just a hierarchy, like you can't expect them to keep promises themselves, because as a leader you've got to lead by example. The best way to lead it is by, it's not the best way to lead, it's the only way to lead is by example. Like if you're full of shit as a leader and you say, oh, I'm going to do this for you, and a few months down the track you haven't actually done it, then how can you expect someone else to do the same when you haven't done it yourself? It's not fair on them that like, and you shouldn't like expect that of them.
You should expect to punch them out.
Yeah, you feel like you'd be like a hypocrite in that terms, and if you've got hold of high standard upon yourself, like that promise sort of should mean to everything to you, because you will feel more confident in yourself and more like have a bit more self-esteem, more like integrity, that you've actually fulfilled that promise, rather than let it keep going forward and in time and not actually fulfilling on that promise that you've said that you're going to do. And as a leader, that's so important, to promises being abided by throughout a whole organisation or community or household or whatever it is. And essentially, that's all it's all about.
The simplest way to keep a promise is to recognize the conversations you're having with yourself and recognize what your priorities are, and make sure that they align completely and there is no mistake between what you want and what you're willing to do, so that then you're not setting any arbitrary expectations, and then you understand that the process is going to be a lot slower than what you'd like to be, and there are times where you're going to be bored out of your brains pursuing that promise that you're willing to keep to yourself and take the daily steps. And in order for that to happen, you need to learn restraint and self-control, so that then when you are doing the steps, then there isn't any interference. So if it's a diet, you're not going to be tempted by shit food. If it's a relationship, you're not going to be tempted to either talk shit or retaliate back if they say something that's triggering, or if they say something inflammatory. Like when you keep a promise to yourself, like your word, right, should be your bond, right? Yeah. And I think Scarface said it best, where he said that a man's only got his balls and his word, and he's going to break neither of them for nobody. And so the thing is, understanding that it's very powerful, your word, when you grasp actually how powerful it is, you'll be very reluctant to break it. And so that then, I think, is a full circle for what we were saying at the beginning of this episode, that you should absolutely never make promises that you know you can't keep. And so if you know that you're working on improving yourself, then the promises should be proportional to the work that you're doing and the action that you're taking. If the promises are way too high and you've given yourself too much bandwidth for fulfilling said promise, then the likelihood of you completing it lowers and you feeling overwhelmed increases. And so to lower the overwhelm, just lower the expectation slightly. That doesn't mean that your expectation is going to not expand. It will expand. It'll expand to the proportion of your courage. And so your courage to take action will then help you expand your expectation. But if you have it too high, then you either are very courageous and you're willing to make radical change and you go ahead and do it, or you set it at a point that you know that you can hit, and then you set the bar then slightly higher. slightly higher than each time. So you might go from 0 to 10%, and then you might go from 10% to 22.5%. So you increased it by 2.5% on top, right? And then from 22.5, you'll go to 37.5, right? So then you went from 12.5% to 15%. And it's just that slight increase each and every single time. And it's marginal. It's marginal, but it makes a difference. Like you felt it yourself in your powerlifting comp, right?
Yeah.
You lifted 200 kilos, right?
Yeah.
And then we only added 5 kilos onto that lift, right?
Yeah.
5 kilos is not a lot, right? When you just put 5 kilos. But when you add 5 kilos to 200 kilos, it's a fucking lot, right?
Yeah.
And so it's the same here. Just that slight increase in consistency, you build the foundation, and then each time that you slightly increase the standard, the expectation, and the growth, you grow. And that's where success boils down to. It's just, are you willing to be bored for long enough so that you can get what you want? And are you willing to make promises that you will keep on a consistent enough basis for a long enough timeline so that then throughout the boredom, throughout the chaos, you get what you want?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you don't, for whatever reason, don't keep the promises that you make to yourself, just don't let that sort of off-put you. Just reevaluate, like you said, and just move forward.
And go again.
And go again. And that sort of comes down to your standards as well. Sometimes if you have higher standards, sometimes it's harder to keep to that promises to you make yourself because your standards so high. And if your standards so high, the more you're gonna move forward and the more better you're gonna become on the way.
Absolutely. And then the higher your standards are, well, you'll be better anyway. So when you are getting better, then you get better at actually maintaining the higher standard that you now have set for yourself. And so when you keep increasing the bar and you keep improving, then the bar that was initially too high for you at the beginning is no longer that hard for you anymore. And so as the bar gets higher, you get better. If the bar's still high but you're not getting any better, then you set the bar too high. You need to lower it and then increase the bar as you increase your skill. And I think to sum it up best, a lot of people want the power but are unwilling to learn the skill to wield said power. And so when you're willing to learn to wield said power of either said skill or said income or said relationship or whatever it is that you're looking to improve on, when you have the skill set in order to maintain or to advance what you have, that's when your ability to keep it will improve much more as well. Because you can take everything away from you, right? But you'll still have the skills. So whatever you've lost, you'll get back anyway. And the better you get, it'll be more, and then it'll be more. And so by keeping promises to yourself, you improve as a consequence. Doesn't have to mean that you get more. It just may mean that you need less, right? And a lot of the time, tranquility doesn't come from having more. It's just about needing less and living the life in the standard with the priorities that you originally wanted in the first place. And to top it all off, it's completely interchangeable. So it's not placid and it's not fixed. You might reach the highest level of whatever your field is, and it may completely change altogether, and you might go into something different and start all over again. And you just want the feeling of that high of just going back on the journey and doing it all over again. And those skills are also interchangeable. So when you learn these particular things and you embody these particular things, I don't think there's a thing in the world that you won't be able to do.
No, I think that sums it up.
Thank you for tuning into this episode. I really hope that you got a lesson, and we look forward to hearing what your lessons and takeaways were. Please like and share and subscribe to our channel, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.
Yeah, thank you guys. Have a great day.